I want to talk about another figure who, unlike all of the figures I've mentioned so far, had nothing really the least bit pathological or dysfunctional about her psychic makeup. Her name is Emmy Noether. That's Noether. She was born in Bavaria in the 1880s. She showed great mathematical genius, earned a PhD in mathematics, and should have been appointed to the faculty of the German Center of Mathematics at the time, which was in Göttingen. But she was a woman, and the faculty could not countenance the idea of a woman being a professor there. And it wasn't the mathematicians who objected. It was the historians and the classicists at Göttingen said, no way we're having a woman on the faculty. And the great mathematician, the dean of German mathematics at the time, David Hilbert, said, I see no reason why Emmy Noether's sex should be an impediment to her appointment. After all, gentlemen, we are a university, not a bathhouse. But he did not prevail. She was allowed to give unpaid lectures. She was Jewish, so when the Nazis took power and virtually destroyed German mathematics and physics, she was able to escape to America, ended up in Bryn Mawr in Pennsylvania, and died prematurely at the age of 52 of a sudden infection. When she died, Albert Einstein wrote a letter to the New York Times pointing out that one of the great geniuses of the era had died without the Times noting it in an obituary. And I'm quoting from the letter. He said that he called Emmy Noether the greatest creative genius that mathematics had produced in the era since women had access to higher education. And he went on to talk about how her approach to pure mathematics was the equivalent of poetry. It was the poetry of logical ideas, as Einstein put it. Now, what did Emmy Noether achieve? There are two categories of her achievement. The first is that she revolutionized the way higher mathematics was done. She created what is now called abstract algebra. I hope some of you were lucky enough to study that as undergraduates. It comprises group theory, ring theory, field theory, Galois theory. Beautiful stuff, beautiful abstract structures, towers of structures with subtle correspondences between them. It's a way of grappling with mathematical mysteries by raising the level of abstraction and generality. And she pioneered this. She single-handedly revolutionized the way mathematics was done. And as if that is not enough, she proved what is called Noether's theorem in 1918. This theorem was called by Richard Feynman, the great physicist, whom you all know, a theorem of unbelievable beauty and profundity, and a discovery that most physicists still find staggering. What is this theorem? What is Noether's theorem? What she discovered was that in any theory of physics, any symmetry in the theory, any invariance, which means a symmetry in a theory means that the theory looks the same regardless of the angle from which you view it. The theory of physics, for example, is invariant under time translation, because if you do an experiment now and you do the same experiment in 100 years, you'll get the same result, etc. What Noether proved was that for every symmetry or invariance in a theory, there's a corresponding conservation principle. So corresponding to the symmetry of a theory under time translation is the conservation of energy, which is the most perhaps the most profound and important conservation principle, the bedrock of science. Now, who would have thought that an invariance in a theory corresponds to a conservation principle? This is something that is that physicists a discovery that they use every day, and it's still rather mysterious. It's almost as though the conservation of energy is in the eye of the beholder rather than in the theory itself. And I spend a lot of time trying to explain these ideas. I know I'm giving them in a very elliptical way right now, and no one should be expected to understand based on the garbled account I've just given. But my point of the book is to try to take these profound ideas, to strip them down to their essence, and to show their beauty and often their philosophical implications. So I really, if there's any takeaway, it's a vulgar expression, but I use it anyway, from this book, I would like it to be that Emmy Noether is the most underappreciated figure in 20th century physics and mathematics, and that her great discovery, Noether's theorem, is a discovery of great philosophical richness, which I explore in the book. So, okay, Emmy Noether, also a lovely, lovely person. As one of her contemporaries said, she had a heart that was absolutely free of malice. She loved her students, and they loved her. She had an amazing intellectual generosity and humility. She was also a poet and a novelist. A great, great woman.